and then we'll meet up at the beginning of each hour. So, we will now be beginning our first block with Veronica.
Hello. Okay, so I'm going to start this off with a couple of questions. So my first question is, how many of you would consider yourself to be extraordinary? Can think about it for a second. Anyone? Okay, interesting. So now I'm going to ask you to imagine for a second, okay? And we're going back to those elementary school days when they asked you to use your imagination. So I'm going to have you all close your eyes, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to imagine the future. I know, it's a little scary. Um, so I want you to imagine what the future of the world looks like in your mind. So let's go 10 years from now, 20, then 50, 100. Kind of come up with a picture of what that looks like in your mind. Is it positive, negative? Is it exciting, or does it look bleak? Okay. So do you have a mental picture? Okay. So now we're going to shift that for a second. I now want you to imagine what your ideal future looks like. So if the future could be anything you wanted it to be, what would it look like? What would it feel like? Where would you be in it all? What problems would we have, and how is that different from your original version? Okay, so you can open your eyes. I'm going to have you keep that in the back of your heads for a little bit. We're going to be revisiting that imagined version of the future. So as a high school student who is just starting to begin her life, the future is something that I think a lot about. I'm right now trying to figure out the person that I want to be and where I want to go. And I call this the stage of becoming. And it's a little terrifying, but also exhilarating. I think that each of us here, right now, is trying to make sense of all of this while simultaneously dealing with the stress of life and trying to gain this sense of freedom. We are trying to figure ourselves out. So for a lot of us in this process of becoming, and this holds true for whatever age you are, we tend to lose ourselves. So I think that we follow this yellow brick road that tells us what the definition of success is supposed to look like. So it tells us what we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be, and where we're supposed to be going, and what our future is supposed to look like. We so what we do is follow this yellow brick road a lot of the time because it's easier, and we tailor our lives to fit into it. So we make our lives construction projects of these GPAs and test scores and extracurricular activities, and we place ourselves onto these pieces of paper, these resumes. We construct ourselves into these paper people. And I think we're all trying to show off to the world what we want them to perceive us as. It's simpler to be easily quantified and to follow the same path as others than it is to create your own path. So what you could do, on the other hand, is forge a path through the woods, but that's scary, and there's monsters there, and there's the unknown. We don't always know where it leads, so why would we create such a thing? Well, for myself, I spent a great deal of time trying to construct my life into something that could be considered impressive, extraordinary. Growing up, I had this persistent feeling of inadequacy because I was never the best at anything. I couldn't for the life of me do sports. I was dropped almost every musical instrument I tried, that includes choir. Uh, I, um, I was never an incredible artist. I was smart, but not the smartest. And I felt like I could never find my place. So I tried so hard to fit myself into something that could be considered impressive or brilliant or talented or remarkable. And I felt like I was none of those things. Not really. But by focusing so much on putting myself into a box, I started to forget to live. Over these past years, I've spent a lot of my time doing things because I have to do them. It's really caused me to lose focus on what I want to do, on what makes me excited to get up in the morning. I think once we start going through our days because we have to and not because we want to, it feels like the hardest thing in the world to get up in the morning. And life starts to become a series of tasks more than anything else. We lose our why, our excitement, our passions, and it all starts to seem really dull. But here's the thing. One of the biggest things that I have learned in my few years of life is that reality is whatever you want it to be. Now, of course, we cannot control a lot of things. In fact, most things are outside of our control. You cannot control what happens in the world around you, but you can control how you view it. So there's no lack of problems, but there's also no lack of beauty or possibilities or opportunities. What the world looks like directly correlates to how you look at it and what you choose to focus your attention on. All the world is what you perceive it to be, and all you are is who you perceive yourself to be. I think that the greatest dilemma of human existence is that although there are billions of people all around us, all we ever know is our own experiences and our own lives. Just as everyone else in the stories pass us by, we are here within our own minds and our own thoughts, and nothing more. All we ever really have is our inner spheres of existence to compare the rest of the world to, and we can never know more than that exists within our thoughts. I say this not to cause you to have an existential crisis, although I have had many over this very topic, but to say that you'll never really be able to, although you'll never really be able to fully experience anything outside of your own consciousness, you have the power to shape your own reality. So as we grow up and find our whys and our reasons to get in the morning and make sense of this overwhelming planet, we begin to really become ourselves once we shift our perceptions from all the problems in the world to all the beautiful things, and from what we are to versus what we could be. As I started to make sense of my own life and my own worldview, I became a lot more aware of the possibilities surrounding me at any given moment. And while there are many things that I have yet to do, I've rid myself of this idea that life is some sort of yellow brick road, a linear progression of all the things that we are supposed to be doing. So I started to create opportunities for myself rather than waiting for them. As a child, I used to adore books and reading, and they gave me a form of solace that nothing else really did. So I started a project at my school to start a library at a secondary school in Ghana that doesn't really have very many resources. Um, and it's just one school with about 650 students, and I cannot give books to every single person in the world, but I think that if you shape the world with one person, you change one thing, it changes the entire world too. Creates a ripple effect. So just one school, just one project, but I hope that will start a movement. Um, I also was I also thought that our community and our school ignored a lot of the problems that we face on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of the problems that are underneath the surface, things such as mental health and sexual assault and problems that go on in our houses. And what I did is I wanted to change this, so I started a dialogue. I tried to write stories and articles in my school newspaper to put faces and stories behind these issues. Um, I started to talk about it more with different people and collect different stories. I joined a mental health initiative at my school with students and administrators to create a more caring culture for everybody. And this is not all to say that I am some sort of friend innovator, yet that is. But I'm really just a girl who has no idea what he's doing. But I've shifted my reality to focus on solutions rather than getting overwhelmed by the world's problems. I cannot solve them all alone, and neither can you. But if we start somewhere with one person, by spreading one idea, by doing one good thing, by giving away one smile, we start to move towards a different future. The small things add up, and the more and more people who believe that they can make a difference, the louder our collective voices become. So now we're going to go back to those questions that I asked earlier about the future. All right, so I want you to go back to your initial version of the future and what you think the future will look like. So what are the problems that have still not been solved? Are there any new problems? Does it look bleak and exciting or dull? And where are you in it all? Okay. So next to your ideal version, is there a gap between this and the realistic one? What is that gap and why does it exist? What would it take to bridge that gap? Okay, comparing those two versions of your future in your mind, I want you to pick one thing that you could do today to move your realistic version towards that ideal version. It can be something small, like being kind to a stranger, or working on that idea that you know could change the world, or helping a friend, or just going out and playing in the snow because it's really beautiful. Perhaps you cannot yet construct that great invention, that teleportation device, or you cannot bring world peace all by yourself. But if you start with one single step, you could one day transform the future. Movements start with one person who's crazy enough to think that they can change the world. And somehow, it is those people that do. So, alright, here's the thing about the future. It doesn't exist. It only lives within your mind. And just like our realities, we can shape it into whatever we want it to be. So, we do that by our tiny actions every single day that constructs that future. We do that by creating our lives into something that we would consider to be extraordinary, by going beyond the boundaries of what we think is possible and reshaping them in what we want them to be. So pick one thing today and one thing tomorrow and create your reality into what it could be, into what you want it to look like. And I hope that when you look towards the future, you're no longer sad at what you see.
Thank you, Rana. Next up is Maya.
I'm sitting in my human body systems class, and I'm listening to my teacher describe the functions of the brain. She is describing the exact thought process someone goes through when they see something that they are frightened of. In this case, she chose obviously the scariest example to come to mind, a beetle. She starts describing how your eyes send impulses to your frontal lobe, which is your decision-making lobe, and then your decision-making lobe sends the same signals to your motor cortex. Your motor cortex controls your muscles in your body. The reason why your frontal lobe is going to send it to your motor cortex is because at this point there's only two options. Either you run away screaming from the bug or you kill it. So many people know this response as a fight or flight process. So your frontal lobe sends these signals down to your motor cortex and all the way through your brain. Seems simple, right? But when I started thinking about this, I found that there was a little bit of a disconnect for me. People always say that you control your brain, or your brain controls you. But for me, I realized that you and your brain are not two different things. You and your brain are the exact same thing. When I really started thinking about this, found that many people go through their entire lives believing that they have to be scared of that beetle. But the truth is, if I took this opportunity to change the way that I perceived what I was looking at, I could also change everything that I wanted to about my life. All of the impulses that are sent through my brain are a collection of all the thoughts and all of the feelings that I have. I used to think that I was a separate entity from my brain, that I was a separate controller, someone with actions and decisions that did not directly affect myself unless I really wanted them to. Though this may seem silly at first, the implications turned out to be tremendous. The systematic waves of the brain are highly comparable to that of an office. In an office, there are several different departments that control several different things. There's the HR department, the sales department, the finance department, and the accounting department, and etc. Each of these areas have assigned tasks that they are required to complete. However, when a decision needs to be made, it is sent through the manager. I realized that the manager was exactly like the frontal lobe. My frontal lobe was my decision-making part of my brain, and so was the manager. If my frontal lobe was my manager, that meant that I was the CEO. In the scenario with the beetle, I began to think, what if I didn't even have to go through the fight or flight process? What if I could convince myself, tell myself that I wasn't actually scared of the bug? Most people go through their entire life being fearful of something, and you just think about ways to avoid it or to confront it. But what if I could tell myself that I did not fear it at all? This would only require a couple of changes in the ways that my brain processes the information. Instead of having the frontal lobe decide upon being scared of the object, I would just have it decide upon not being scared of the object. It will be difficult at first because oftentimes you spend your entire life being fearful of something, and those same signals have repeatedly been processed in that same exact manner. And to divert from it would be very difficult. But as time passes by, you and your mind will wrap around this idea, and eventually you will lose the fear that you once held. It is this idea that enforces the belief that I have full control over myself, that everyone has full control of themselves. With this idea, saying things out of anger or out of another strong emotion you are feeling at the moment loses its meaning because you, in that time and at that moment, you made a conscious effort and decision to say those things to another person. You also made the conscious decision to feel angry or upset at what that other person may have told you. These decisions that I have made are all just a rapid firing of neurons, and it is the simplicity of thought that allows me to realize control of what I am doing and to change it. Every task that I perform happens through my conscience, and it is a matter of being aware or unaware of this fact that allows me to alter my future. This recognition allowed me to explore alternative parts of my life and explore how it could be further used and applied to it. As I implemented this newfound concept to myself, I found that if I gave no regard to what other people said to me, I would eventually stop caring about what they said. And in the beginning, it was really difficult because you spend your entire life thinking that what other people say matter and I have to listen to what they say. But as I started to give no significance to what other people were saying, and I just took their ideas and did not pay much attention to them, I really did stop caring about what other people thought of me. It also started to affect my behavior. In the mornings, I would spend less and less time getting ready. Because the truth is, I don't care about what I look like. To me, it is my character and my ethic and my work that really matters to me. It is not the way that I look or the way that I present myself to other people that has any effect on me whatsoever. I found that dressing up every morning was not a pleasure, but rather a chore, one that I did not want to complete. I also applied this to the emotions that I was feeling. High school is a rocky road, and a lot of the time I felt something called mood congruence. Mood congruence is the sense of recalling more of the emotion that you are feeling at the moment. Oftentimes this happened with sadness. When something bad would happen to me, I would just get into this spiral thinking of all the bad things that have happened to me throughout my entire life, and it would just be the worst thing ever. However, I realized that this is a spiral, and I start at the initial stages. If I was able to control my thoughts in the beginning, before they got worse, I could completely change my perception on what was happening in my life. I realized that if I took control of these thoughts in the beginning, I wouldn't have to go through the painful recollection of all those terrible memories, and I would just save myself a whole lot of trouble. And it drastically improved my mental health. Now, I realize that every time I think of something that bad that's happened to me, mood congruence is also a trap that I make for myself. And since it is a hole I dig for myself, since I'm thinking of those thoughts and forcing myself to think of those thoughts, it is also a hole I can fill right back up and not even have to go into. This entire process has helped me better understand things myself in ways that I did not know were possible, and realize that the only person that has the ability to change and alter what you think is you. If I can control a couple of neurons firing in my brain, then I can control anything that I want to do.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Rama, for starting off our conference strong. So I think we'll take another maybe 20 minutes, and now we'll be having a break. A lot of our break activities are out in the hallways, or we can just take the time to sit down and relax. But thank you. See you at 1 o'clock.
there's a very interesting story about the 19th century composer Franz Liszt. He would conduct his orchestras in a very peculiar way. Instead of telling his musicians to play notes like a C or an E, he would instruct them to play different colors. So just imagine yourself. You're at a rehearsal, and your conductor's saying things like, a little bluer, please. This tone type requires it. Or, that's a D violet, please, not so reversed. You'd probably think he was being foolish, or completely out of his mind. And that's exactly what Liszt's musicians thought at first. But as time went on, they grew to realize that Liszt could actually see color in music. So today we now know this as a phenomenon called synesthesia. Now, synesthesia is generally defined as an increased interconnectivity between different parts of the brain. Now, there are two main theories that describe this. The first is the disinhibited feedback theory. Whenever our brain responds to a stimulus, it takes that information and relays it to a sort of central processing area, which then puts that information back into different parts of the brain where it needs to go. Now, in brains without synesthesia, there's this regulatory mechanism in place which stops what's called feedback, the information going to the wrong place. In brains with synesthesia, this feedback is turned off, thus this regulation is turned off, thus the feedback is disinhibited, or the name disinhibited feedback. You could think of all of this like a kind of closed circle. A brain without synesthesia is a very organized structural closed circle that gets your mail from point A to point B exactly how you want it. And you can think of a brain with synesthesia like a closed circle with a bunch of lazy employees who are throwing your mail everywhere and don't care at all about it. And when you want to send it to Noblesville, you can send it all the way to Kalamazoo. So this diagram kind of models the grapheme color synesthesia, which is seeing colors when you use like letters or something. So the stimulus here would be the input letter A. It starts in the graphene area where it surfaces and takes to the multimodal processor, which is the central processing area. Now, again, as I said, in a brain without synesthesia, this feedback to the read for color area would be inhibited. But with synesthesia, it's disinhibited, which means you get to the color area, which means when you read the letter A, you're now seeing the color red. So the second theory is the cross-activation theory. When we're all young, our brains are naturally interconnected anyways. But as we grow older, there's a process called neural pruning that occurs, which cuts these connections that we don't really need away. Now, this theory suggests that in people with synesthesia, this neural pruning never occurs. So their brains are physically different than ones without. So now you're left with someone who can smell colors or see sound. This shows a brain with different areas activated. You can see here, again, with graphene color synesthesia, that when the graphene area of the brain is lit up, the visual color area is also lit up when it's not supposed to be, showing the cross-activation here. So another similar phenomenon here is perfect pitch. There are a lot of musicians today that we all know that have, or at least claim to have perfect pitch, like Michael Jackson or Jimi Hendrix. The one we're going to focus on today, though, is a little known composer you may or may not have heard of by the name of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. An anonymous letter written by someone watching his interactions with perfect pitch wrote, I saw and heard how, when he was made to listen in another room, they would give him notes, now high, now low, and he came out with the letter and the name of the note in an instant. Indeed, on hearing a bell toll or a clock or even a pocket watch strike, he was able at the same moment to name the note of the bell or timepiece. Anyway, so what is perfect pitch? Perfect pitch is the ability to identify and recreate a note without the use of a reference note. Meaning that if I were to play this note here, most people wouldn't know what it was just by sound. But people with synesthesia could tell you that it was an F sharp and play it back to you. Similarly, if I were to say hit a glass cup with a spoon, people with synesthesia could tell you exactly what note that glass was producing and play it back, like Mozart did with his bells. You can think of perfect pitch as kind of a musical superpower, which theoretically gives you the ability to perfectly recreate a piece of music just by listening to it once. Now, perfect pitch and synesthesia are actually pretty similar. With people who have synesthesia like Liszt did, his color to sound synesthesia, they can use that to be able to associate a note with a color. So when they see that specific shade of color, they In fact, research done at the Feinstein Institute of Medical Research in 2013 showed that out of 768 people who had perfect pitch, about 20% of them also had some sort of synesthesia, which they connected this correlation to genes that enhance neural interconnectivity. So what does this mean? It means that synesthesia and perfect pitch are actually really closely associated. So now you're probably asking yourself, what's the point of all this stuff? There has to be some sort of greater meaning, right? Well, the point is that everyone sees the world in different ways, and music is just one way that we use to see it. Our perception of music shapes the world around us. Say someone listening to a sad song, a sad song kind of represents the sorrow after losing a loved one. They interpret it as happy and upbeat, and they take that happy and upbeat message away from it. Now, someone who interprets it another way can actually see the real meaning. If you look at Misery by Maroon 5, for example, it's a kind of happy and upbeat sounding song. But if you interpret it a different way, you can actually see the real meaning behind it, like the title suggests, which is to show the misery after breaking up with a loved one. Listen to it. And you can kind of see the confusion there. Now, as I've said before, our perception of music shapes the world around us. For people with synesthesia or perfect pitch, the ideas and meanings they the ideas and meanings they get from music are concentrated in the colors they see or the notes that they hear. Now, that being said, most people don't hear music this way, but that doesn't mean that anyone's interpretation of music is any less valid than the others. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a song for you. Now, while I'm doing this, I want you to think about how this song makes you feel and why it makes you feel that way. Personally, I feel like the song kind of represents the roller coaster of love, so to speak, the drifting emotions you get, which are represented by the soft versus the hard parts of the song. Anyways, without further ado, I'm going to play River Flows with You.
Okay. Thank you so much, Simbu. That was a really great performance. Next up, we have Daniel.
Thank you, Celine. All right, so today I just want to talk a little about three different contexts. China, which sort of is getting included in the Middle Kingdom, as it's kind of known as with the Chinese and stuff. So let's talk about it. It's kind of a different alien part of the world, and let's go to it right now. Okay, so going in here, China really is an illustrious culture. It's been filled with so many different events over the millennia that have been here. That you see here is the Qing Dynasty emperor, sort of the rich royal history that the country has. But China is also a country that's been through a lot of emotional trauma as well within the past century, especially being through stuff such as the Opium War, the Chinese Civil War that occurred. All these things really show us sort of a different angle of China. China has been humiliated on the world stage within the Chinese perspective within the past century. And really what you see here through the Hangzhou, the city with Marco Polo arrived in back in the 1400s, is that China is also back. And China is here really to try to reassert itself on the international stage. Now, let's go into a little bit of Chinese culture concepts here. The first thing is going to be Guanxi. Guanxi sort of being, the whole thing about sort of the importance of having these connections to Chinese society more or less, in the sort of parsing that way. The second concept being Yanzi, sort of that whole thing about sort of the importance of face in Chinese culture, and how you're not supposed to really lose face, and how losing face really is a big deal. And lastly, the concept of Jinxing. Now, beyond further note, does anybody here know what the concept of Jinxing is? Anybody, any hands, anybody know? No? Okay, so let's see. Jinxing actually is nothing at all. It's jinxing, the English word jinxing. Now, let's be honest here, how many people actually thought when you saw the word jinxing on the board, did anybody actually think of the English word jinxing? Anybody at all? No? Okay. So I completely made that up, right? But this really goes in to show the importance of context within language as a whole, right? The fact that I led you guys down this whole entire fake presentation about Chinese culture made you guys think that jinxing is a Chinese thing. And it made you guys completely forget that part of your brain that knows that jinxing is a word. So now let's kind of go into this thing, right? What is context and why is it really so important? And first of that, to put that on my old homie here, it's not going. Descartes right there. All right, okay. So you guys are all familiar with Descartes' old formulation, Je pense donc je suis, I think therefore I am, right? So besides sounding really profound, what does that actually mean and where does that really come from? The whole point that Descartes said earlier, you're showing a logical foundation of logic in its own right. So what's important here is that when you think about, this goes back to a concept known as a regress argument within a lot of philosophy. And what that really is that ultimately, what do we know that doesn't derive from some other foundation, right? So if I see, for example, that, let's put an example here. I see that Bridget is wearing a red jacket here today, right? Okay. Where does that foundation actually derive from? That knowledge derives from the fact that, first of all, that I perceive the color red, that I trust the judgment of my eyes, among many other assumptions that you have here. If I say that Donald Trump is rightfully elected president of the United States, whatever reason that may be, then what we can say here, that derives off the assumption that there was an election, that he was rightfully elected. What you see here is that all knowledge really derives from something else, and that it's really hard to actually make a statement without actually having some assumption that really leads up to that statement. That's not what this is showing here, is that the basic beliefs are supposed to be your axioms, the things that you can just say without any other concept, yes, this is 100% true, and those are supposed to use as a foundation to build up the other non-basic beliefs using the concept of justification, using evidence to use those as evidence. And what this really goes to show here is that, okay, guys, just throw some propositions out here, thinking more directly. Can you guys think of anything that you guys would think would be 100% proposition without any assumption whatsoever? 2 + 2 = 4, all right? So that place is good. That place really fit the whole concept of like the mathematical concept that we've been growing up with. Remember here, the mathematics isn't this, like, it's not this TV screen over here. I can't touch it, it's not tangible. Mathematics is a concept for product with 1,000 years of human work, and it's true, but it's still a concept of our imagination ultimately. 2 + 2 isn't floating around the real world here to introduce itself. And so what Descartes is trying to get at is that what can we assume without thinking, without really having that assumption? And really the only thing that he's able to get down to is that I know that I think because I'm currently engaged in the process of that, and I think therefore I am. That shows because the fact that there's some sort of act of thinking occurring evidences the existence of some sort of rational being or some sort of being that's engaging within the thinking. It may not be the current form of human. We can't guarantee for sure. But what we can guarantee is that thing is that being is engaged in the act of thinking. And that shows that ultimately, we don't know anything for sure. So really the goes to here that is that, okay, we can't go around living our lives like, yep, no, I don't know anything, sorry teacher, I'm not passing those answers on that test. But what we can do here is that we have to use our context responsibly and actually engage in those things that are responsible in here. And so let's think about the power of context all the time, right? The first important thing is disambiguation, right? So with disambiguating a lot of different things here is that, okay, what's a period? A period depends on a lot of different things, right? We're talking like chemistry. It's going to be this nice periodic table that gave me many nightmares. We're talking about in terms of biology. A period might be a mechanism that I'm not very familiar with. If we're talking about history, a period is a historical era. We're talking about English. A period is something that loses us a lot of points on the SAT. And so what we're dealing here with that is that what I have in this context, by really giving this context that, no, I'm talking about the period at the end of the sentence here, that does allow us to help us facilitate our communication, our discussions. It gives the context that in this specific case, that is the period that I'm talking about. That also leads to the second kind of thing, though, is that the context also allows us to have further kind of comprehension, right? This is a little shout out to Mr. Young, our biology teacher here. Mr. Young yells at us a lot, right? Because back in middle school, we learned about the concept that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, the factory of the cell. Apparently that's not accurate. I honestly don't remember why, but it goes to show the point that when we do drive a lot of our biological knowledge, a lot of our comprehension here, outside of what we have physically experienced in our own right, it's based off the concept of metaphor. That if I say that my best friend is lion for whatever reason, we're drawing that metaphor to show that he has some sort of lion-like features, like he's brave, he's strong, something like that, right? But it's not a perfect metaphor. It's not going to be that, in the case of mitochondria, for example, that doesn't mean you have little factory workers running around in the mitochondria with like actual wages and labor strikes being organized and stuff like that, right? So it's important to note that when we're drawing these metaphors to help us comprehend these different things here, they do serve a certain extent. They do help us understand that yes, mitochondria do provide the energy for the cell, but it's not a perfect metaphor, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. And lastly, the most important thing here being with the power of context is that it allows us to really gives a certain peace of mind here. I mean, I'm only 17 here, but I've had quite a few midlife crises already. The fact is that we had to question every single thing we know, then ultimately we wouldn't be able to go on with our lives. We just have to take that leap of faith and sort of assume that some things that, although I can't even guarantee 100% to the dot that this is true, we're going to take our best guess that that is true. And that is also important with context that you kind of have to know that I can't delineate every single thing I'm discussing with another person, but it's important to sort of just know, like, yeah, that we have a certain shared ground that allows us to continue our discussion. But again, there are also dangers of assumption and the dangers of context as well. The first thing is really going to be prejudice, and that can be very detrimental a lot of the times. So, for example, I mean, the example that I here have is the Quran up here, and an important example here is that, as with any book of literature, you can't interpret a single book outside of context. What that context is entirely debatable. But it's important here that when we do have discussions, not only with the Quran, but other religious texts as well, that are, or texts in general, is that when you take specific extracts from these books and these certain institutions, you have to take into account that what was the overall context of the book, what was the overall context of the society in which it occurred, what was that meaning? Because without that context, that thing, and when you divorce it from that context, that's the other thing. The other way that prejudice can occur with context, on the other hand, though, is that when you do have here, that leads to the third point as well with hubris, is that if I grow up with the assumption that the way I live life is the way that it is how the only way that it is, that context, and I share that context because I never dared to question that why are things that way that they are, then that does lead me to potentially go into certain issues here in terms of assumption here. The fact that, for example, I'm actually not my example here, but what the sort of simple assumptions such as the fact that, for example, that all humans, for example, would take the cardinal direction in the form of left and right. That actually is not universal amongst all humans. But if you go to certain indigenous tribes in Australia, there's certain tribes in Australia that actually do not go operating on the basis of left and right. If Bridget is here in front of me, actually to my right, I wouldn't say she's to my right, and I don't know my cardinal directions. Within those societies, you'd actually say Bridget is to my east or to my west, even though she's right in front of me. They don't have words for left and right. So what this really shows here is that without taking this context here, but if you take the context here that everybody knows how to say left and right, then what that ultimately is going to lead to here is that we can't always take that for granted for everybody. It's important here when you're talking with other people to clarify: do you believe this too? Is this your assumption, or is this only a thing that I've heard about? What's that thing here? And that's important for productive discussion because otherwise, a lot of the time when you guys aren't talking from the same base, you guys are talking past each other. And that's obviously not going to be beneficial for the pursuit of knowledge. And lastly, with going into the whole thing is that I'm talking about not highly comprehensive knowledge, with the whole idea of the metaphor and how, things aren't going to be one-to-one exactly the same. I am the only person that I am. You can say that I'm like another person, but that's not necessarily the kind of thing. Metaphor, I emphasize this right, and this is really have to use, but not exactly always accurate. And the last thing is going to be when I talk about hubris, not only sense of the dangers of prejudice, just that knowledge is based off of questioning, off of not knowing everything, and having to question these things at different levels here. When we do settle the assumption that these subtle patterns of life, that how we grew up, let's say, in Carmel, is the way that things are, and that's what they're supposed to be, and that we're just comfortable with that, sure, that gives us peace of mind, but also potentially can lead to intellectual stagnation. And that we're not questioning, for example, that why aren't other people doing the things that I do this way, stuff like that. And when we don't really have that foundation for question, when we do set into the path of stagnation, that does keep us a lot of time from learning, and that does sort of stop our ability to learn new things. When you open the foundation and actually do question your own roots, not only does it help you better understand yourself, and that also helps you better understand other people. For example, with that idea of concept of religious faith, a lot of the time within the Islamic tradition, it's said that the people who convert are considered to be better in terms of their religious merit, as opposed to people who are born into it, because they have to go through the arduous process of interpretation, of wrestling with their own foundations, of really wrestling with their own identity a lot of the times, as opposed to simply being born into it. And I've been doing it for exactly. Okay, interesting. But okay, here. It's a ghost slide, I don't know. Okay, fine. So that goes to the whole thing here is that we kind of have to end up like that. Don't end up hunchback. I would not want that for you. But we have to always be thinking and always be questioning ourselves here. The moment that you accept one thing, one
That's the moment that your drive for learning has essentially died. Question everything, guys, because that's the only way you can only know. It's sort of weird, but the less you know, the more you know. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. That was really great. So we'll meet up again at 2 o'clock for our last round of speakers. See you guys. So we're about to start our final block from 2 to 3. It's been a really fulfilling day. We have 3 more speakers for you. Our first one is Griffin.
How you doing? I'm Griffin Zoss. I am a senior at Carmel. I am a second semester senior, so let me say that. So my day is filled with I don't pick up my pencil towards the fourth period. No, but if you don't mind, I want to start off by saying this. I just want to say how good it is to see y'all. Can you guys say that with me? It's good to see you. Can we say that? It's good to see you. Man, I love that saying so much. You want to know why? Because nobody says that. Everyone say hey, or my kids nowadays say what's up, or yo. Nobody says yo anymore. But you know what? It's good to see it as one of those things that people don't say to each other anymore, and it really just makes you feel good inside, doesn't it? When somebody says it's good to see you, it usually means they're genuinely, really excited to see you that day. So I'm going to challenge you. My first challenge, there's going to be a lot of them in this, but my first challenge for you is go up to people and say it's good to see you. I need my clicker here. But moving on, so this speech that I'm about to give today, I went round and round about what I wanted to talk about. I had no idea. There was a point where I was literally watching Disney's Meet the Robinsons, trying to decide how I wanted to translate the idea of moving forward, and I was stuck. I didn't know what to talk about. And I did what I usually do when I get stuck and I don't know what to do, whether it be writer's block or bored doing homework, not knowing what to do next, or not knowing how to solve the next problem. I sat down, I shut up, and I just listened. And I thought, okay, so I looked at the theme, and I looked and I thought, and I was like, you know what? This whole TEDx thing is about finding new ideas. It's finding new ideas, and I thought, and I was like, you know what? I'm a second semester senior, and I think if I were to be able to convince you of an idea, that idea would be how would I take what I learned in 4 years at Carmel High School and change it, and look at it in a different light. And I think that's what I'm going to try to do with here today, is because I wanted to explain some of the things that I've learned in 4 years at Carmel High School, like use the code machine near the main office. It always works. It's always stocked, and it takes a credit card, so it's actually really helpful. Or always use the smaller water fountain because the bigger one is used way more, and it usually has this thing on it, and the water pressure is usually always better, and also the smaller one always tastes better. Or even something like, be sure to study for that test. Don't make the mistakes I made, and be sure to study for every test. But I want to dive a little bit deeper, because that's what you guys need. I know not a lot of you, or some of you, are done with high school, or about to be done with high school, or going to be done in a matter of years. So you want to hear something that's going to apply to everyday life. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. And I begin with the topic of quality over quantity. It's something you hear all the time, right? Quality over quantity. In a world today, we are also immersed in this idea that more is always better. And I'm going to try to convince you it's not. And I found this freshman year CVS. I'm a last minute kind of guy, Celine knows this. I'm a last minute kind of guy. And I go to CVS at 9 o'clock the night before the first night of school. I'm sitting there, and these are my options. For $4.99 each, I go with my favorite pencil. If you guys don't use these pencil, what are you doing? This is the best kind of pencil ever. The big mechanical pencil. It's my favorite one ever. I use this. I refuse to buy any other mechanical pencil brand. This is the best one. It lasts weeks. Versus the 72 mechanical pencils. Looks awfully nice, doesn't it? They give you some more lead and some erasers on the sides for the same price. Why wouldn't I go with that? And what I found is kind of high school and life works the same way. We look at people, and we think, oh man, I want the most friends. Or I want the most popular friends, right? That's what I want in life. But at the end of the day, wouldn't you just much rather stick with what you know? My grandpa, who's like the best person number one person in the world to me. He has the best quote ever. He's like, by the time you're my age, if you can count 5 good friends on your hand, you're a pretty lucky guy. And I think that's an important thing to keep remembering for the rest of your life. So, for me, quality is always over quantity. You gotta walk the trail. For those of you who don't know, there is a trail at Carmel High School. It is 0.3394 of a mile. And if you drive to Carmel High School every day, you have to park at this football stadium, and you have to walk all the way up this trail. There are going to be days when it's sunny, 75. It's a beautiful day to walk the trail. And there's going to be days like today, where it is snowing like nobody's business. There is ice all over the road. People are doing 360s in the parking lot, and it is crazy because you have to walk up, and it takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes to walk up this thing. It is miserable. Carmel High School students hate it, and the one picture I can find on Google Images is this one, and guess what? The trail is flooded. It tells you what the trail is like every morning. People hate the trail. Students complain about it every day. Why don't we build a parking garage in these woods area? Well, because a parking garage is really expensive. But I think the trail represents something kind of beautiful. The trail represents that thing in life that you don't want to do. It's that thing in life that is really annoying. It's that thing in life, it's that meeting you really don't want to have at the office that week. It's that test you really don't want to take at school. It's that, family member you're really trying to avoid because you don't want to have to talk to them about that really awkward thing that happened last week. The trail is something that you really don't want to do. So, funny story. It was my junior year. I'd been driving up the trail for about a year. It was rainy, cold, dark, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to make the trail a little more fun today. So I packed my Bluetooth speaker in my backpack, and I turn on Party in the USA by Katy Perry at full blast, walking up this thing. Now, I'm not going to lie. I had a bunch of kids flip me off as I was walking up the trail that morning. People didn't like it. I thought it was a funny thing. Kids, do not mess with high schoolers at 7:15. Parents, you know what I'm talking about? Do not mess with high schoolers at 7:15 in the morning. They don't like it. But when I got to the top of the trail here, I did have one kid come up to me. And this one kid made all the difference. This one girl looks really shy. She was like a sophomore. She came up to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Hey, I just want you to know that made my morning. Thank you for that." It's little things that we can do that make this walk, this thing in life that we really don't want to do, it can make it way more enjoyable. My challenge to you here, find that thing in life you really don't want to do. Find that thing in your life that you look at Sunday night, you know you're going to have that on a Wednesday or Thursday, and just think, man, I do not want to do that this week. And find a way to blare Katy Perry during that. Find a way to make that more enjoyable. Find a way to make this the highlight of your week. And I promise, if you find a way to do it, not only will it be better for you, but it will be better for somebody around you. And after all, isn't that what we're put on this earth to do sometimes? Make others' lives better as well as our own? Something to think about. Always, you gotta walk the trail. Don't fall asleep. I don't see anyone sleeping right now, so that's great. Another funny story, I have a lot. So, as a freshman coming into Carmel, there was nothing harder in life than Algebra 1, and I know a lot of the speakers today have been literally geniuses. Like, we had a brain surgeon, a girl who wants to be a brain surgeon earlier. I struggle with math so bad. Algebra 1 is my worst enemy, and it was freshman year. I got a 7 on the quiz, not a 7 out of 10. That's a 7% on the first quiz. First test, I'm feeling really good. I studied all night. Like I was up till 3 a.m. studying. I did 10 study guides. I was feeling good. I get to the test. I write my name. I answer A on answer 1. It was easy, and then boom. Well, yeah, that's me. Oh. Ah! That's me right here. We got Chandler. Which is kind of karma. My favorite thing to look at is students falling asleep in class. It's like the funniest thing to me. But I just fall asleep, and the next thing I know, I wake up to hear the teacher say 5 more minutes. Guys, I have one answer for this. So I go through, just zooming through, like, sure, B looks right. Yeah, that looks good. And I finished the test in like 5 minutes, 80% of the test in 5 minutes. I got a 71. I was pretty proud of myself for falling asleep. But it just goes to show that don't fall asleep. I think we sometimes in life we prepare so hard for that test, or prepare so hard for getting into the college we want to go to, or prepare so hard for that job interview. Sometimes we miss the beauty in between. We fall asleep during life's most precious moments, and we're so focused on this one area of our life, we tune out the rest. Don't fall asleep, because you're going to miss some beautiful moments. Dance at everything. Okay, so I'm involved in student government. We have a lot of events all year long. We're playing music at a lot of these events. And there's this couple who come to these events. They're in swing dance club. And they dance like full on, like I'm not talking like, yeah, it's fun, awkward high school. I'm talking like doing flips on each other's backs, like rolling around each other's necks. I can't even describe it. It's that complex. So I went online. I was doing swing dance research. It's like doing this, but to this theme song from Friends. Like, they're not playing swing dance music, folks. They're playing, like, high school music. Like, here's another one. I'm trying to think. I think this is Cotton Eye Joe. This is what they look like. And it's like they don't match the music at all, but it's awesome. So junior year, I've been watching this for 4 years, guys. Junior year, I was just like, I need to talk to them. I need to know why. Why are they doing this? So I go up to them. I'm like, hey, why are you guys doing this? Like, and they said, because we love doing this. Like, this is what we love to do, and we don't care who sees. And guys, if I can tell you one thing, isn't that kind of a beautiful thing? The fact that this couple, I don't even think they're dating, but they just show up and they do what they love, and they don't care if they're getting made fun of. They don't care what the world thinks about them. They just want to go and do what they love. I think so often in life we're so caught up in doing what the world wants us to do. There's an awesome saying from this painter from like the 1700s. I couldn't tell you his name, but he said this. He's like, to whom do I belong? To the world or to a higher power? Isn't it usually that we belong to our world? We do the jobs that we want to do because it's what the college council recommends. We hang out with the people we hang out with because that's who the world wants us to hang out with. We join the clubs we join because that's the clubs we're supposed to join. I'm telling you, I think our world would be such a much happier place if we stopped doing what the world wanted to do and started doing what our hearts wanted us to do. So, that being said, dance at everything and stop caring about what the world thinks. Be you. Which brings me to my final one, and the most important one by far. Make every day the best day. So I have this awesome aunt. Her name's Aunt Kelly. And she does this thing at Riley Children's Hospital every week where she takes this magic capsule cart around with her friend Bob. And it is this giant magic capsule cart. And inside these compartments right here are literally board games, chess, checkers. They have coloring books. They have little rubber snakes that you like throw at your mom when she's like being annoying. And like they have all this like little toys that a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 5-year-old kid would absolutely fall in love with. Up here they have teddy bears. It's awesome. And what they do is they push this cart around every single floor of Riley Children's Hospital every single week. And they deliver toys to every single kid in every single room. And what is so awesome about this is here we see it. This is the guy in charge. His name is Bob. He's doing this. He's been doing this for years. This guy's 87 or something. And he continues to go every week. And what's so awesome about this, guys, is one week I went with him. And we pushed the cart through we're on the cancer floor. And we pushed the cart through. And all of a sudden, this kid, this 4-year-old boy who is bald from chemotherapy, comes running down the hallway with his IV because he is so excited to get to that cart. And guys, I get teary-eyed thinking about it because that's so beautiful is those kids in that hospital have the entire world against them. They don't have their health. They would do anything to be able to sit in a math class that I'm falling asleep in. They would do anything to be able to go to recess. They would do anything to be able to sit at a lunch table every day. But because of their condition, they are stuck in a hospital bed. But by God, when a cart with toys, something as simple like these teddy bears aren't special, they're like $2 at Walmart, comes rolling down their hallway, it brightens their day like nobody's business. And that kind of inspired me. If some kid who has his entire life up against him can get so excited for a teddy bear, I'm pretty sure I can make the most out of mine one day, getting to be out of high school. Make the best out of every day. How do I do this? Now, my friends know I'm a really hype kid, and I try to do this every day. I get loud every day. I scream on the announcements in the morning for a girls' basketball game. How do I do this? I wake up every day like it's recess. When you're a kid and you're like sitting at your desk and it's like 11:54 and you get to run outside at 11:55 and you just sit there and you're like, your feet are shaking and like you're so excited. You're making eye contact with your friends like, tag today? Yeah? Okay. And you're so excited. Guys, wake up every day like it's recess. Set that alarm for 6:45 in the morning and say, yes, it's going to be recess tomorrow. Get excited when you go to bed for the next day. And I promise, if you treat every single day like it's recess, you are going to have a much happier day and you are going to make the most of that day. So, in conclusion, a few things. One, can we get a quick round of applause for TEDx today? They have done a fantastic job. Allison Hargrove, their sponsor. I'm going to shout her out. She doesn't want to, but I'll shout her out. They do an awesome job today setting this all up for you guys, and they are absolutely fantastic. I know Celine too. So Celine has tried to contact me so many times at the worst times. I feel so bad. Celine has done an awesome job with me. A few things that I'm going to challenge you to do. Quality over quantity. Find the things in your life that you really value and decide, am I valuing the quantity of it or the quality of it? Look for that quality friend in your week. You are going to have to walk those trails in life. There are going to be times where you're going to look at a Monday or you're going to look at a meeting and you're going to look at a test and you're going to think, why do I have to do that this week? You got to do it. Make the most out of it. Try to find the joy in it. Don't fall asleep. Guys, this life goes by awfully fast. Ferris Bueller said it first. Don't miss a moment. Do not miss a beautiful moment, because if you do, you'll find yourself like I am right now as a fourth quarter senior thinking, man, why didn't I hang out with those guys sophomore year that weekend? That would have been so much fun. Don't miss a beautiful moment. Dance at everything. Guys, stop caring what the world thinks about you. I promise. If you stop caring what the world will think about you, and people who I respect do this, people are going to respect you even more because you don't care about what the world thinks of you. And finally, make every day the best day. Because this day is so great. Even when it's snowing and it's 5 feet of snow outside, you got to come to TEDx today and hear some awesome high schoolers talk. Find the best out of every moment and make the best out of every day. Guys, that's all for me. Thank you so much. You guys have been awesome. Sorry if I ran awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Griffin. Next up is Alina.
Hello. Okay. You can hear me. Yeah, I can hear this. It's off. Okay. 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 Um. Okay. Hello. My name is Alina Yu, and I'm a junior at CHS and a member of Cabinet Student Government. Today, I am here to talk to you about my experience in that service group and how it has enlightened me on the definition of philanthropy. So, CHS House of Representatives, what is your first thought when you hear about this group? Many whom I've spoken with have thought or associated this group with this aspect of buying yourself in. Mainly because House members attend events with a donation and will be able to gain points for their distinguished graduate points. However, do people ever stop to think about what actually entails when you join a group like House of Representatives? Why should you buy yourself into a service group where you're supporting a family who has a child battling against cancer, or where their fellow students are being treated outrightly? Furthermore, do you think of the activities a House member actually participates in and where you can participate in? Such as working events where you aid activities for children to participate in, such as Trick or Treat for Riley we have in October, or helping bring in supplies to help an event run smoothly. So if you haven't heard of House, it is a branch of CHS student government focused on bringing activities and events in CHS and the community to participate in order to support multiple charities, one of which is Riley Hospital for Children, and our main event, which I'm representing today, Carmel Dance Marathon. Our sponsor is Ms. Wolf, whom we as cabinet members, as leaders of House, spend most of our time planning and meeting with in C123. However, it is also a group based upon philanthropy. So by definition of Oxford Dictionary, philanthropy is the desire to promote the welfare of others, especially expressed by the generous donation of money to good causes. But today I do not want to focus on that second part promote the welfare of others. Many associate philanthropy as seeking financial gains for a specific charity or organization, which is true. However, through my experiences in cabinet, I believe it is the action of devoting yourself to others, serving others, that is the foundation for philanthropy, the desire to do more. So growing up, I always thought of philanthropy as a service specifically money-oriented. I believe people were not doing service for the right reasons. People were serving others and helping others, and that was great. However, I always questioned their motivations and their intentions. By the time I got into my 8th grade year and I had served 3 years of Creekside student government, and even as their president, I decided I wanted to do more. However, those intentions weren't quite as sincere. And to be honest, I was very egocentric. I only thought about my future and going to high school, building up that service experience, and also thinking about college applications, which was a little far-fetched for an 8th grader, but I did. And not going to lie, that was also my mentality when I applied to House. And as the year progressed and I attended more events, I started to latch onto this idea of buying in. However, my justification for continuing with the group was for those distinguished graduate points and something to put on my college application. However, this all changed. This all changed on one day, and that was Carmel Dance Marathon on February 27th of 2016. On that day, I truly experienced what it was like to serve, but it wasn't from dancing around with my friends and having a good time. No, it would be from the 6 children who went up on stage to tell their story about their feats against their battle against cancer. It'll also be from seeing the cabinet members that year cry their eyes out when they saw a total being raised. Because from what I would later learn, the long hours and hard work that they put in the previous year. So I went home crying that night, and when my dad came to pick me up, he asked me why I was crying, and if it was because I had a horrible time. And I said no, it was the exact opposite. I had felt the immense joy that I had a small contribution to this large organization. And it was that feeling that led me to talk to my House leaders that year to apply for cabinet and logging in to C123 for an interview that I didn't know would really lead to cabinet, but I knew it was one step to me doing more. And more I did. I went around neighborhoods collecting donations with my fellow cabinet members, with some of which are here today, something we call camming. I also stayed late nights and afternoons helping plan and set up events that we had the next day. I also went around to my fellow peers and fellow Greyhounds, really coming out of my comfort zone, trying to promote events that they could participate in and selling different items for a donation to Riley. And those were only some of the countless number of activities and hours I spent doing more throughout my sophomore year and even well into my junior year. Something this role had always reminded us to do was just to do more and go beyond our expectations. So I wasn't, and I'm not, the largest fundraiser in C123, but I know that I put in all my effort to make at least a contribution to my service to the community and the kids at Riley Hospital. And while maintaining my busy school schedule and other extracurricular responsibilities. So by the end of my sophomore year, I began to realize that definition of philanthropy. That while I am contributing to financial gains to help fund research, supplies, and medical needs, a cart that would enliven the kids' days at Riley Hospital, it is my desire to do more that instills the hope and love inside the families who are being treated at Riley Hospital. Keeping sure that in my mind, I remember my family who has been impacted by cancer and those around me being treated at Riley. However, I want to dig deeper into the idea of philanthropy, something I mentioned earlier in my presentation. So with your desire to do more comes your motivation. So by doing more comes your reason why. This motivation has evolved for me these past few years, but became clear when I started my second year of cabinet so this junior year. My great friend and classmate who's here today, Tessa Burns, was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia January of our sophomore year. I hadn't known her as well as I do now, and I had only chatted with her on a couple of occasions and served with her at events because we were both on our executive council for a dance marathon, and she was a Senate member. However, on one morning in January, we received the news that Tessa was diagnosed and that she was being treated at Rite Aid. That a leader in CHS who was serving others was being treated at Rite Aid. And she would come back to walk through those cabinet doors later that May on the last day of school to join cabinet. And I was overfilled with joy and choked back tears. However, I also saddened to see the condition her cancer had put her in. And I knew in that moment that I wanted to do more and work harder and harder for her and for other kids at Rite Aid. And after rounds and rounds of chemotherapy and spinal taps, Tessa would be back to normal and come back to school and do well, and literally she's thriving today. And doing well beyond anyone I have ever known to serve others. And becoming an inspiration to me as well as many others. Through her, I see the work that we do in C123, us cabinet members doing more, has had a part in Tessa's remission. She is the reason I'm continuing. Yes, the arrow's there. Okay. She is the reason I'm continuing to work hard and do more today, and she is my reason why. You don't need a friend with cancer to do more, and you can have any motivation to do more, even if it's just for the sake of the well-being of others. However, I do want to leave you with one note today. For any journey you embark on your road to philanthropy and for service, something that my sponsor has always reminded us of and says today. What is your why? Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. And our last speaker for today is Crystal. Just as I don't dive into the quote first. Okay, so in June of 2016, my mom encouraged me to sign up for my first ever pageant. And what initially started off as like a forced fun summer activity, like your parents probably make you do those too, like go get outside, stop sitting on the couch all day, don't sit in the basement in a dark corner, actually turned into something that completely changed how I feel about both myself and also how I think I present myself both in a professional sense and also in a personal sense. Okay, so let's start by giving off a little bit of context myself. So what's up? As Griffin says, it's good to see you. I'm Crystal. I play the viola in the Carmel orchestras. I'm pretty involved with the speech team. And if you know anything about me, maybe, or if you see my picture, you probably can infer that I'm relatively academically inclined, which is true, to put it lightly. So when I tell people that I also do pageants, I usually get jaws dropped on the ground, and moreover, when I show them that picture, I get really like jaws dropped on the ground. Because society generally thinks that the individuals who do pageants don't necessarily look like me, don't necessarily do the same activities as me, right? But what I've learned from doing pageant these few years is that there's actually 3 insanely marketable skills that you can develop through doing pageants that apply to any socioeconomic status, any personality type, any ethnicity. So let's talk about them today. So the first one is interpersonal skills / public relations. So whether you're in your personal life, you probably want to learn how to interact with different types of individuals, or if you're in your corporate life, corporations always want employees who can work with lots of different types of individuals. If you can't play the video, it's fine, don't worry about it. Basically, we want individuals who really know how to work with all types of people. Moreover, if you're thinking about entering a more consumer-driven market, whether that's sales, whether that's
communications, entertainment industry, you also want to be able to work well with the community, work well with the public, be able to present yourself well. And these are all things that pageants can help you do. So what the video clip was supposed to show you was a 10-second meltdown on toddlers and tiaras from TLC, because I think that shit is hilarious and I love it. But basically, the point I was going to drive home with that video is that even at such a young age, right, society has already begun to perpetuate that pageants are in an environment in which there's a competition to see who can throw the biggest tantrum, to see who can gain the most attention. Yet, in my experience at least, that's utterly and entirely untrue. So I'll just give a quick anecdotal example. So as this congeniality of Hamilton County 4-H, I'm there smiling somehow. I attend a lot of community functions, whether that's parade events, serving as a Hamilton County 4-H representative within our county, attending state conventions, so on and so forth. And in all of these places, I'm asked to serve as a representative and work well with the public in my community. Moreover, I think there's also supposed to be something said about bringing together a pageant show really quickly, i.e. within a couple weeks of notice, and being able to really work together as a group of colleagues, so all the pageant contestants together. Sure, you're always going to get some of your divas, always going to get some of your catfight type individuals, but I think the skills that you gain in the process far surpass any of that sort of drama that we so-called speak of previously before. So another skill that is extremely important, I think particularly in today's industry, regardless of the field that you go in, is the ability to speak in front of individuals. So right now, I must divulge that a lot of this is probably impromptu public speaking. But I think pageants, through their notorious onstage question part, actually help you develop this in a way that almost no other educational program can help you develop it. And first, because I think it's funny again, we'll watch a quick example of Miss South Carolina giving a non-answer answer. This was a meme floating around in like 2010, 2011. So you've probably seen it, but I think it's always good to watch.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as South Africa and Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. Or should help South Africa. It should help Iraq and the Asian countries so we will be able to build up our futures for.
So, what? Okay, so whether it was because she totally balked at the stakes, couldn't meet the demand, whatever, I think that pageants are supposed to help this type of scenario, which is when it really counts, right? So being able to express your thoughts, your feelings, emotion, who you are truly as yourself, is incredibly important. And one of the reasons, where am I pointing? Okay, no, wait. Yes, okay. And one of the reasons why pageants help this really specifically is because a lot of times the onstage questions in pageants are deeply personal. So, for example, I do speech and debate, and one of the events that I compete is impromptu public speaking. So I'm relatively comfortable on stage with a mic in my hand in front of an audience. But because onstage questions in pageants ask you to talk about deeply personal examples, yet we're trying to maintain this so-called public image, or this so-called more approachable, more friendly, more youthful version of ourselves than we already are in our daily lives, then it becomes learning how to find this really careful, fine balance and learning how to express yourself while still maintaining that level of personal privacy that you so particularly value. And I think that's something that pageants in particular has given me that I've never seen an educational program give me otherwise. And finally, we'll talk about perseverance and dedication. So when I generally ask people what they know about pageants, they usually talk about, oh, they have to like sing or dance or act or do something vaguely. And that's, yes, but that's what we call our talent section. So generally, a lot of pageant contestants really hone their craft over years and develop their talent section, whether that's singing, acting, dancing, a musical instrument. And I think it's a true testament to their perseverance and their dedication. And of course, employers want to hire employees that are really able to persevere through those tough times and really put themselves forward in the work and the elements that they pursue. However, when pageants don't necessarily go too well, you end up with talent portions like this. So we'll just play like a 30 seconds, 45 seconds-ish, just to get a feel of it. Okay, Angie, my ears are bleeding. I'm just gonna pause it now. So if you're not a string player, I'll just catch you up really quickly on what happened back there. So the intonation, which is what we call playing in tune, was not very spectacular. The rhythm was pretty far off, and the musicality was just not there. So string players, you now know why they say play scales, because it makes a difference. But basically, what we saw in this example, whether it's because she got too nervous and her fingers just couldn't hit the right notes, or what I personally view as a total lack of preparation, she didn't necessarily put forth the dedication and the perseverance that we need to see in talent sections. And because these pageants force you to perform your talent in front of audiences, then you have that extra incentive to really go out there and perform to your fullest capability. However, for the overwhelming majority of other pageant contestants, we spend years and years honing our craft and really perfecting our talent. So my go-to talent is a 90-second cut of Bach's First Cello Suite, the Prelude Movement. And that's a picture of me playing it at the Distinguished Young Woman of Indiana, where I eventually won the overall talent award. So basically what we see in these instances is that some songs, which only take like 2 or 3 months, you blow through them during your private teacher studies, are actually spent a year, 2 years really honing, really perfecting, really literally breaking down note by note and trying to draw out any type of musicality you can in order to perform to your fullest capacity in both pageants and later when you develop these skills that can apply to both your personal and your professional life. So now that I've hopefully convinced you as to why pageants are so much more than just about a beauty vanity contest, but actually can help you develop 3 insanely marketable skills, that is public relations, impromptu public speaking, and perseverance and dedication, let's talk about who generally does pageants. So society's image of a beauty queen, if you will, has always been white, tall, blonde, and slim, and female, but that's changing. However, as we see individuals shatter glass ceilings, we can see that these pageants and the people who participate in them has very quickly begun to evolve. Such as this lovely lady right here is Nina Davuliri. In 2015, she was named the first Asian American Miss America. She is of Indian descent, and it's truly a testament to her being able to shatter glass ceilings, truly being able to reach outside of her ethnicity group's comfort zone, if you will, and truly take that next step. On the other hand, this is Michaela Holmgren. She was the first individual with an intellectual disability to compete on the Miss America cycle. She competed this year in the Miss Minnesota State competition and was awarded Miss Congeniality for her efforts. So what we can see in these 2 examples is that these are 2 individuals who traditionally, because of whether it's their disability status or whether it's because of their ethnicity, aren't necessarily seen as the most typical type to participate in pageants. Yet because of their constant hard work and dedication, they can find success in their ways as well. But the overwhelming majority of us will probably never become Miss America, will probably never become huge, big name beauty pageants. So still, what's in it for us, right? So the most pragmatic reason is because of, first, scholarship money. So because of this program, which is called Distinguished Young Women, I'm here with the 4 other finalists and last year's winner. There's actually the potential to earn thousands and thousands of dollars of scholarship money, which I've already done. So if you're a female junior sitting in the audience, come see me for info because there's money to be made. Second, pageants have completely changed my life and my ability to feel confident in presenting myself physically on stage, to feel confident presenting myself in community and public situations, and just in general to feel confident and have those key skills that we talked about. Those ideas of public relations or impromptu public speaking or perseverance and dedication. And because of pageants, I think in some ways would I still be the same person? Yes. But I wouldn't be nearly be able to fulfill my potential as I am now because of those experiences. So what am I asking you to do today? I'm asking you to shift your mindset. More specifically, pageants are no longer simply an exercise of beauty and vanity. They're no longer simply just a show of glitz and glamour. But more specifically, Pageants have the opportunity to change lives. Whether because it's of the scholarship money, which is an extremely pragmatic point of view, or because of the life skills that are gained in the pageants, pageants have an opportunity to make individuals more confident, more secure within their own potential, and go out there and fulfill that potential. To my prospective contestants who may have never considered a pageant otherwise, I surely did it. But because of my time and because of my experience within them, I am truly a better person because of it. In the light of an ever-evolving society, I ask you to encourage the inclusion of all individuals in pageants, so that way the world can be just a little bit closer to reaching its fullest potential. Thanks.
Okay, thank you guys. That was our last speaker. And so that brings our Spring 2018 conference to an end. But before you guys leave, I have a really long list of people to thank. First of all, the speakers, you guys have really put in a lot to prepare something really meaningful. So thank you so much to Raiha, Mayo, Sukun, Daniel, Griffin, Alina, and Crystal. And we have a really big list of team members who worked hard to put this entire event together. I'm just gonna list them off, so please bear with me for a second. Ali, Kate, Jack, Izzy, Sylvia, Ali, another Ali, Heidi, Kiki, Adele, Amberly, Bridget, Catherine, Jordan, Samir, and Talha. And yes, Talha. So all together, you guys have put so much into this conference, and I think it really showed today. We have some committee heads who are spearheading this conference, including Ali Eaton, Shay Rickle, there's Shay, Rachel Tan, Shruti Sinha, Celine O, myself, and then and then Andrew Gostinowski. And then our president, Hannah Paul. Hannah Paul was the one who she has a vision for our entire club, and so it's been a great privilege to work with her. Just a special shout out to the seniors, since this is going to be their final TEDx conference. Thank you guys for everything you've done. We'd also like to thank Catherine and Christine at the library for giving us this amazing venue, and of course Mrs. Hargrove for being an awesome. And thank you guys, the audience members, for being a part of this. It's been really, really special. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we have taken the process to plan it. One last thing, Ali has a final message.
So many people couldn't come today because of a protest that's going on in Washington, D.C. You may have heard of it, the March for Our Lives. So in the spirit of encouraging a conversation, especially among conversations so spearheaded by kids of our age, we wanted to provide the phone numbers of our representatives if you'd like to contact them and tell them what you think in the spirit of sharing ideas, and just to encourage us to take part in the political conversation that's going on in our country right now. But thank you all so much for coming, and have a nice rest of your day.